What it is, what it do, cyber world. It is your girl, the one and only Ash Said It. AshSaidIt.com, AshSaidIt.com. This is the Ash Said It Daily Podcast Show. I appreciate you guys for all of your love and support. Makes a huge difference. Over 1,100 episodes and 500,000 streams worldwide. None of this would be possible without you guys. So I thank you so very much. Today, I am joined by my Shiro. You know, back in the 80s, we had She-Ra and He-Man. This is my Shiro today, the beautiful Cara Brookins. Hey, Cara.
Hey.
How are you doing today?
I'm feeling She-Rode right back at you.
Awesome sauce. All right, Cara, so let our audience know, where are you from? Where do you represent?
I live by Little Rock, Arkansas.
Ooh, okay, Little Rock, Arkansas. So, Cara, before we jump into everything, let's just ask, do you have an architect background?
I have no architect background unless we're talking about computer software.
Ooh.
I was a software engineer, so entirely different than the sort of architecture that would build, say, a structure.
So how did you get inspired to build your beautiful home with your 4 children?
It's the way so many people are inspired to do something, necessity.
Yeah.
You know, I needed a house. It was really, really that simple. I needed a house. I needed a place to live. But because my kids and I had been really beaten down because of domestic violence and stalking, I also needed to do some kind of a project with my kids. And the two of those concepts just merged. I needed to do something with my kids. I needed a house. Why don't we build one?
Yeah. And the inspiration from YouTube, out of any sector and any medium to try, you know, as far as books and talking to people and going on different job sites and things of that nature, what piqued your interest with YouTube videos?
Well, of course, having a computer background, you know, being a bit of a computer geek, being in front of computers a lot. And YouTube, when I started building the house, which was in December of 2007 and through 2008, it was in its infancy. So this was the first real representation of videos on the internet that walked us through tutorials and that were all collected in one place that were easy to find. So it was really that, you know, that blossoming of, hey, you can do absolutely anything you want if you can just find the right tutorial.
So what did your kids say when you initially told them, hey, kids, we're going to build our house?
What a crazy thing. You expect that your mom has some level of expertise in the things that she suggests, and you trust her, right? So when I came to my kids with this idea, I presented it in this way. I said, here's how much money I can borrow from the bank. With that money, we can buy a small sort of broken house. We can stack it some bunk beds, and we can try to fix it up. Or we could buy all of the supplies, you know, all of the 2x4s and bricks and nails, and with that same amount of money, we could build the house ourselves and end up with this much larger, you know, more impressive house that we would be proud of. And, you know, okay, I sort of tipped the scales a little bit by presenting it that way, but all of my kids were instantly in. And it sounds crazy because they were 17, 15, 11, and 2. There was one toddler. But these teenagers were not normal teenagers.
Yeah.
You know, they had been through horrible life circumstances. They had been helpless for, you know, more than a decade. They had felt unable to take any sort of physical action to change where they were in life.
Wow.
So this was the first time that idea really, and it gives me goosebumps to say it, was just like served up on a platter for them of, hey, you want to have a life that you can be more proud of. You want to change like how it looks and feels to be in your life. Here's a way to do that.
Yes.
And so they were all in. They were all in, and they stayed all in. They never said, no, I don't want to do this.
Now, with 4 children under the age of 17, what was day-to-day activity like as far as managing?
It was crazy. I was still working full-time. I mean, you can just imagine what a schedule looks like. Dropping a 2-year-old off at daycare. I went into work super early. Again, I was writing computer software. And I was able to make my own hours so that I went into the office early. I could get off work by 3 and grab the kids from school and daycare, change clothes at a house we were living in about 6 miles from where we were building. And then we'd hit the construction site, and we'd stay out till, midnight, sometimes 2 in the morning that I was out there working. Using the headlights of the car in the really early stages of the build to even see what I was doing. And the kids would head back to the house, usually about 10 o'clock, and they would handle, any homework. One of them would throw the 2-year-old in the bath, and I would head back out to the construction site. And then I'd, go back to the house, sleep 2 to 3 hours, get up at 5 a.m., do it all over again. For 9 months. It was 9 straight months of, 20-hour days.
Yeah, I mean, that hard work and determination paid off because Inkwell Manor is gorgeous. It is absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It's big, too. We started out, telling each of the kids, if we do this, you can have your own room. And I had kind of sketched on the back of one of my kids' school lunch menus the general idea of what, the house would look like. Right. But then I gave each of them a pencil. And what a dangerous thing to do, right? Because it kept getting bigger. They were like, well, my room should have the walk-in closet. And they kept making it bigger. And, of course, I let them because this was, again, the first time that they could control their future and control the way that they felt about, the way that they presented themselves in the space they lived in. So we ended up building a 3,500 square foot house. It's a big house, 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms. I am sitting right now in my own library, floor-to-ceiling books surrounding me. We each created our own space.
Wow. So what would you say during the process, during this 9-month period, what was the most challenging part of the building process?
The most challenging from an emotional standpoint was learning how to communicate with each other. And that sort of coincided with the most difficult physical part of building the site, building the house, and that was the foundation work.
Gotcha.
And my kids and I, because of the domestic violence, because of the situation that we've been in, we didn't know how to talk to each other. We had all kind of pulled inside of ourselves, each one of us just trying to survive this day and get to the next. So we hadn't developed this close relationship that I had always wanted with my kids. So when we first showed up out on this construction site, and it's freezing cold December, we're knee-deep in mud, and we've watched YouTube videos the night before of how we're supposed to begin a foundation. This is the first time that we're learning how to communicate as a family and a construction team all at once. So, it was a comedy and a tragedy all boiled into one. Yeah. Because we had to learn how to rely on one another. Someone is better at the math than I am, so I have to rely on my 17-year-old to do the geometry in this. And my 15-year-old son, he's bulked up a lot faster than me. I'm 110 pounds, and carrying these massive concrete blocks around. So I had to start really relying on my 15-year-old to, haul around the really heavy things. My 11-year-old, who'd think that an 11-year-old could contribute much. But she knew everything about building a house that I did, which, admittedly wasn't much, but she had done the same research. Right. So her opinions were just as valid as mine or the 17-year-old. So it was really learning to come together as a team and do this really physically difficult thing and this intellectually difficult thing, as well as this emotionally difficult connection. And within, weeks and certainly within months of us starting this project, the way that we could communicate, almost psychically, knowing what tool the person needed or what that point or that grunt meant, and the way that we learned to rely on each other, it took the place of what I think years of healing and therapy would have taken without adding this physical action, this getting up and taking this action and, working together intimately every day. It sort of fast-tracked us through all of that healing.
Gotcha. All right, you guys, so we're going to take a brief break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Cara about Inkwell Manor and the inspiration behind the book, Rise. So, you guys, hang tight, and we'll be right back. Did you know that some foods can cause weight gain, body aches, and extreme fatigue? These are just some of the symptoms of food intolerance. Well, what is food intolerance? Food intolerance can occur when the body cannot properly digest certain foods. This can result in acid reflux, migraines, and so many other painful issues. How do you find out what foods are causing this irritation? It's easy. Pinner Test. With 500,000 satisfied clients worldwide, Pinner Test is the #1 way of identifying foods that may be causing discomfort. This simple at-home kit is easy to use with results usually within 2 weeks via email. It's that simple, all right? What are you waiting for? Go visit pinnertest.com and use my special promo code AshSaidIt for your discount today. Welcome back to the Ash Said It Daily podcast show. We're chatting with Cara Brookins, and she is this amazing woman who she built a house with her children, her babies, and not just any house. It's Inkwell Manor, darlings, and it is a gorgeous, amazing property. So, Cara, I wanted to talk about your compulsion. Why was it important for you to tell your story through your book Rise?
Writing the book was, oh my goodness, it was such a hard decision. I was already a writer. I wrote fiction, so it seemed like a natural progression, but it wasn't. And telling the true story is so much harder.
Yeah. And
I worked on it for 6 years before I figured out how to tell it, and then whether or not I wanted to share it. But it became so important the more people that I met who, they were in a tough situation. Either they'd been through something difficult, they'd lost someone to cancer, a divorce, it's so many different things that we go through, and they needed to make this next step. They needed to make their life better, or they were just kind of in a rut, and they knew that they could do something bigger, but they didn't know how to take that step. And the more of these stories I kept hearing, I was like, that was me. That's exactly where I was, and I stayed in that place too long. And it's just taking physical action and quit talking about it. That's what made me say, I have to write this, and I have to share it. But it was way harder than building a house.
Yeah.
Reflecting and looking backward.
Yeah.
As women, we become so focused on balancing our schedules, taking care of the kids, going to work, trying to make ourselves better, all of these things that we're doing, that who has time to reflect and look backward?
No.
So that was a really tough thing for me. I'm all about whatever that happens, let's keep moving. But in order to write a book that would connect with people, I had to be a real person. And that meant really evaluating the really deep parts, the hard parts, why did I get in this situation in the first place? And sharing the mistakes I made and, the really tough things that hurt my kids, and being really transparent about that. So that was really, really tough. And then to put it out not only in book form, but then, now I'm speaking all across the world, about taking that step, about taking action. And now we're doing a major motion picture. So it's making your life transparent in this massive global way that I didn't see coming, but that has me looking at myself and at other women who are struggling in such a different way.
Yes. Last but certainly not least, Cara, what advice can you offer to any woman that is in a discouraging domestic violence type situation?
Plug your ears. Don't listen to what everybody else says that you can or can't do. Decide what you want, and then immediately, as soon as you have made that decision, write it down and take one step forward. It's so easy to keep putting it off. Take that one step forward toward that thing, and then keep doing that every day.
Sounds like a plan. Cara Brookins, thank you so much for joining us today, Cara. We appreciate you and your kind words of inspiration that is definitely to everyone that it touches. Everyone is certainly, I know that I am. I can only speak for myself. I'm inspired by your story, and that later on, just confirms that we are capable of doing whatever we set our minds to, whatever that may be.
Well, thank you. And I love what you're building here. You're building big things.
Thank you. So, Cara, let everyone know the best way to get in contact with you, to pick up the book Rise, and your social media.
Everything is at my website. I do tons of Twitter and Facebook too, and everything is at my website, which is easy, carabrookins.com. And that's Cara with a C and Brookins, INS.
Sounds like a plan. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so very much. Keep in mind, Anyone to tell you that you can't do what you want to do, you look them square in the face and tell them, don't believe me, just watch. Watch what I do. Watch me make it happen. Watch me make history. That's what we're doing this for. We're doing this for the history books. Social media is nice, but real life is way better. Until next time, you guys.